Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 79. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardall. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kev's at Kev's Believe the first name believes, being at first E being a 3. Sorry. And you can like our videos on YouTube, leave a comment, tell us what you think of the topics that we talk about. It has been a while. I have been traveling around the state. I went and saw my two co-hosts one weekend, and then I had a nice getaway with my girlfriend for our anniversary. So I am back, and let's talk about the Seattle Sounders. They have been doing pretty well since we were last on the podcast. They lost in PKs to San Jose in the U.S. Open Cup, so that is kind of tough. 10-9, quite a penalty kick shootout, followed by a 3-1 win against Minnesota, a 1-0 win against Houston, a 1-0 loss to Colorado, and then they just completed a 2-1 win against Charlotte yesterday at Lumen Field. They are off for a couple weeks, and they're back at Lumen Field. They're at Lumen Field all of June, so if you want to go see the Sounders, they're at Lumen Field for all of their June games. They take on Vancouver, LAFC, Kansas City, and Montreal towards the end of the month. Sean, have you been watching any Sounders soccer, and what have you thought of the Seattle Sounders?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I gotta say the penalty kick game. When your goalies are kicking penalty shots against each other, that gets pretty intense. Not gonna lie, that's what it came down to. And their goalie made it, and ours didn't. So there was. I would say for the most part. So up until the Charlotte game, I want to say that the Sounders actually played pretty well. In the Charlotte game, especially in the first half, the Sounders were really sloppy. And then finally, and again, kind of like the normal, Stephen Fry made this crazy save off a post on a free kick. He accidentally hit it off the post off his hand, and it hit his foot. And then because it hit his foot, it went straight to the Charlotte player. If his foot just hadn't been at that angle, it goes off to the side and is not a goal. But his own foot kicked it right to the foot of a Charlotte player. And he's like, tap it in. No goalie standing in front of me. So other than that freak goal by Charlotte, Stephen Fry saved us. And then in the second, if you guys haven't seen some of those goals by Rudy Diaz, it was an amazing individual effort by Rudy on that goal. But the offense showed up. So I think that the run is, they've won 3 out of 4, so I don't want to say the run is starting after the fact, but they look a lot better than they did early in the year, I think, minus the first half of Charlotte. But yeah, they look pretty good.
Yeah, I was able to catch some of the Charlotte game yesterday, and I did see that Rui Diaz goal. When he's playing at his best, it's hard for this team to be stopped, because once you get Rui Diaz going, then you get everybody else going, like Jordan Morris and Nico Ladero. So once Rui Diaz is going, this offense really goes. And like you said, 3 out of 4 is pretty good. They are currently sitting in 10th in the standing, so not exactly where they want to be, but it's still
played way less games too. So just keep that in mind. Like, everyone's like, oh, they're second to last. I'm like, they have 11 games played. The team in front of them has 15.
Yeah. So that is true. Yeah. They are at 16 games played, and all the teams.
No, that's their points. They're at 12 games played.
Or sorry. Yeah. My bad. Yeah. So they are getting up there in terms of games, but they had some of those U.S. Open Cup games as well as the CONCACAF games that kind of move some of their schedule around. So they will get back up there, and once they get back up there, I expect them to be near the top of the standings, because the Sounders have the talent to do it. Obviously, they have been better at home than they have away. That's just usually how the Sounders play, and that home field is a pretty big advantage for. It depends on the sport, but for soccer, I'd say it is an advantage. Kevin, have you watched any Sounders soccer recently?
I have not, but I've, for the most part, kept on my contractual needs.
You've cashed those McChickens in?
Yes. Now, they thought that with the contract that they'd be getting just straight wins perfect, which I was like, you're going to get a lot of wins, but I'm not going to make you perfect. Now, the last loss that they had is because I was at the game. I had to go to the bathroom, and I could not give them the mojo. And then, the kick happened, and sometimes nature just calls. But overall, I feel like they're on a good pace to continue on into the next month to do some real damage.
Well, we will see how the Sounders doing. Like I said, they are off until June 14th, taking on Vancouver. Then June 18th and June 25th, LAFC and Kansas City. Those are both Sunday games on ABC. And then on June 29th, they're taking on Montreal. All of those games in June are at Lumen Field. So tune in to the Sounders on Prime Video or ABC, or just go down there and watch a game. I mean, it's should be very, very nice in Seattle in June. So go check out the Sounders. Also want to give an update to the OL Reign. They've had 4 games since we were last on. They have gone 2-0-0 draws, and then they defeated the Kansas City Current 1-0 on May 25th, and then the San Diego Wave 1-0 on May 29th. So they are back in action on Saturday on the road against Chicago. That game's on Twitch if you want to watch it. Twitch is really easy to use. Just download the app, go to the website. You could probably watch it very easily on that. San Diego Wave FC is June 12th, and that's on Paramount Plus. So if you have either of those, feel free to check out the OL Reign. Please support them and show them just as much support as we show the Sounders. Also, let's check in on the Seattle Storm, the Sue Bird Swan Song, as we call it. I just made that up. I don't think we call it that, but they
It flows. You could do it. Yeah.
probably pretty close. They lost to Phoenix Mercury the game right after we recorded, but they are on a 4-game winning streak right now, having defeated the Chicago Sky, the LA Sparks, the New York Liberty back to back. So the Sounders, or sorry, Storm are coming into their form here. Brianna Stewart's been looking pretty good. So has Jewel Lloyd, as well as some of their role players. Sue has been out the last couple of games, but I know she'll get back in there, and this team will start clicking. So, gentlemen, let's move on to a much more difficult topic to talk about, and that is the Seattle Mariners. So let us go back through the rest of the schedule for the Seattle Mariners. We have been off for a while, and it's been okay.
There's been a lot of losing.
There's been a lot of losing. This is true. So where should I start here? I think let's go with New York. They took 2 of 3 from the Mets.
They're the only team to have beaten the Mets in a series this year.
That's true. Then they were in Toronto, took 1 of 2. Then they were in Boston, lost all 4. They came home this past week. They took 1 of 2 from the Oakland A's. And then most recently, they took 2 of 3 from the Houston Astros. And then coming up, they were off today. They have a 3-game series on the road in Baltimore coming up. They're at Texas after that. And then they're at Houston after that before returning home for about 12 games. So, Kevin, I'm going to start with you. What have you thought of the Seattle Mariners?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's not been pretty, unfortunately. I think it's a combo of a couple of things, but we'll start out with one of your main boys, Haniger, not being there. He was, with the whole, I think it was COVID IL, and then he came back for like 1 at bat and then got hurt with the sprain. Is due to be out probably till, I would say, All-Star break, I believe is what they were last quoting, kind of in that ballpark area. So that's kind of just a big hit loss to your, core. Inconsistent bats. Kelnick got sent down just because he just couldn't find his stuff. It was, as we were kind of thinking that, the same thing too, like, as we were saying on podcast before, like, when do you send Kelnick down? And then it happened, because I think we were.
I think it happened like a few days after we talked about it.
We were all kind of in the May range. I was a little bit more like Memorial Day, June. I think you guys a little bit earlier than I was, and they went, and it's true. I mean, they are. This is a season where they're going to try to compete. Now next year, I think it's the year where like you got to make it or start looking at changes, but definitely sad to see that. And other injuries have happening too with I'm blanking on a stinking name, Tom Murphy getting hurt, and then there are other couple injuries throughout. JP was hurt for a little bit, and then moving on from that, you have the bullpen that's been having a little bit of struggles. They haven't been what they were last year, but like as we've mentioned so many times on this podcast, bullpen is such pitching in general, but bullpen is such the hardest thing to repeat in baseball. You just it's very hard to maintain it from year to year. And then unfortunately, one of your main pieces, your closer last year, Streckenrider, just could not find his stuff and got sent down recently. And they've, just all in all, it's not been great, but not been horrible. Like it could be worse, in my opinion. So I think hopefully that will get better over time. Excuse me, sorry. Starting pitching has been solid enough. I like to see a little bit better out of Robbie Ray. And I think he's getting to that point. Gilbert's been very good. Marco has been good. People have been pooping on him a little bit too much. I think he hasn't been his best stuff like what we've seen before, like the season where he only had like the shortened season where he only had like 3 walks or something like that. But he's not doing his best, terrible either. So I could see a better Marco, but I'd be okay if he continues with what he is at, being hit the 3rd, 4th starter. Flexen, yes, has struggled a little bit. And then the addition of Kirby's about what I thought. He's having a little bit of struggles. He's still getting Ks. He had 9 on his last one, I thought, 7 or 9 Ks on his, but only had like 4 earned runs. So I think that's going to be, eventually he's going to find his stuff. Hopefully, I don't know if it'll be like right now, but I'd still throw him out there because I don't know if you really have any other better option. Maybe unless the whole bringing up Ryanus Elias type deal is that option, because Ryanus can start for you if you need him to. But and bad coaching by Service at moments. I feel like just lineup thing, versus pitching. Calling in certain people at certain times to pitch hit, and choices in that matter. Yeah. I don't want to go on for too long here, but it's been a struggle. The good parts have been one, Ty France is still good at baseball. Two, what's up?
No, that was my computer. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Julio Rodriguez finding his stuff. He's been super hot lately, so that's good to see your top prospect going ape shit on kids. Gilbert, as I already mentioned, and they're still, I think, top 10 to 12 in hitting, I believe. I haven't looked at like the numbers as of today, but I believe they're still up there. And then beating a team, taking a series from a Houston team is very good. It's just losing to bad teams like Athletics is not good. We've mentioned that on this podcast several times before. Like, you should be beating the poopy teams and trying to at least sneak out a series win against, the solid to good teams. So, all in all, I hope it improves. Kyle Lewis addition should help a little bit, but they're being very gingerly, like, giving him time off if he needs it. It's really trying to only keep him at DH. They don't want to put him out in the field, which I get, because he feels like he's Mr. Glass. But we'll see what the road lies ahead for this team, especially with Kelnick starting to heat up down in AAA.
Yeah, I haven't. I've watched games here and there. I've mostly been kind of watching the NHL playoffs, as well as some NBA playoffs. But from what I have seen, I think the starting pitching is probably their strongest thing so far this season. The bats just need to get better, and I think there's just some lineup inconsistency now. Not that that's not something you're going to see with giving guys day off and stuff like that, but it seems like every time they tweet out the lineup, it's just always tweaked just a little bit. And I'm sure some of the players would like some consistency as well. Of course, you want your days off, but at the same time, you also want to get out there and play. You know, they're not playing great at the moment. They did take the series against Houston. We'll talk about the panic meter in a little bit, but overall, I don't really see a reason for that. I like Kevin said, Kyle Lewis has been good in the times he's played. Julio is coming on very nicely. Logan Gilbert still looks excellent. Hopefully the bullpen will kind of figure some things out. I know there was talk about sending Matt Brash out there, but I'm hoping that maybe they'll just do that soon. And then you guys mentioned Kelnick down in AAA. Yeah, I've seen a few clips of him on Mariners Minors Twitter. Give them a follow. They usually tweet out some clips about all the minor league players, and he's been showing up there regularly. So hopefully he kind of finds his stuff and comes back up, because that's what he did last year. And towards the end of the season, he was playing pretty well. So hopefully he can refine that form in AAA, come up and do it again in the major leagues. And then, when Henniger comes back, you guys have talked about a crowded outfield. I don't necessarily mind a crowded outfield, especially with how the season has gone so far. Now, granted, you don't want to necessarily put a guy on the bench for too long. You want your guys to play, but with the struggles of this team injury wise and just keeping up with production, I think the amount of outfielders you have out there is good, because I remember Sean talking about trading Kyle Lewis. What was it, last year, a year before that, or something like that? And now you still have him on the team, and at this point, I don't see any reason to get rid of him unless there is an offer you can't refuse.
The guy I suggested trading him for, though?
What?
Have you seen the guy who I suggested trading him for? What he's doing?
I don't remember who you suggested trading him for.
I'll get to him when I talk about it.
Okay. But I mean, it seems like he's doing well, and as long as he continues to do well, a crowded outfield I think it's a good problem to have. Sean, what have you thought?
This isn't just soda pop. Let's put it.
Also Adam Frazier at leadoff. It's fine. Like, why are we so upset about that? I don't understand. Go ahead, Sean.
About Adam Frazier leadoff?
I thought people were upset that Adam Frazier bats leadoff.
People were upset that Jesse Winker is batting leadoff.
Oh, okay. They took
not
a spot.
Problem. I'm going to tell Mariner fans one thing that they might not like to hear, but it is an absolute truth. Ichiro is not a great leadoff hitter. Your job as a leadoff hitter, technically your job at every position, but your job as a leadoff hitter is to get on base. The guy who has the best on base percentage needs to be batting leadoff.
Hold on, Sean. I'm getting APB out of Seattle. Yeah. Don't come. There are people
Jesse
looking
Winker
for you.
Has a good on base percentage because he walks. So get on base is what you want early in the lineup. Shocker. So like Daniel Vogelbach's hitting leadoff in Pittsburgh, and it's working out just fine. Like that's what you want as your leadoff guy. So I will say it was rough to watch. New York was fine. Awesome. Toronto, they took one of Toronto. Toronto's a good team. So losing two is not like crazy. Would have liked a couple better looks at it, but still, like, it's Toronto. The one that hurt the most, I think, honestly, was Boston. Boston, we were on this podcast, and Kevin and me wanted Trevor Story. And Trevor Story won 3 games by himself in a 4-game series. I will say that's something JP Crawford will never do. Watching Trevor Story.
Continue to disrespect JP Crawford.
He's not Trevor Story, Matthew. You just watched it happen. You watched that happen.
Well, I didn't watch it, but
okay, but 4 games, Trevor Story did whatever he wanted. Whatever that man wanted, he did it. Me and Kevin were playing each other in fantasy, and I have Trevor Story. Kevin watched it happen too. Kevin watched every single one of those home runs go over a wall in Boston. Yeah, it was rough. Like, honestly, without Trevor Story, we might sweep the Red Sox. But he decided that was not going to happen. And unfortunately, like, the Red Sox were playing bad. Trevor Story's playing bad. They got right, and they're still playing well. If anyone's looked, they're still hitting. Trevor Story's still hitting home runs. Boston's playing awesome. Unfortunately, it just happened at the Mariners' expense that they turned the switch, and they turned that switch, and it has continued for the next week and a half, even after that. So, but just, man, like, getting swept in a 4-game series was that's what put you behind the 8 ball. And then, like Kevin said, then losing in the way you did to Oakland. You come back, you get that win against Oakland. The next game, you come out, you got a lead, and immediately blow the lead, and then the game's over. Like, it was such a gut punch. That Oakland game was just, that second Oakland game was hard to watch. And I will say the Mariners did it again. The Mariners in 3 games against Oakland gave up 3 runs. You have 3 runs in a game. The major league average for runs in a game per team is 4. The Mariners gave 3 in a series to a team and did not sweep a team. Like, I get it. If you want to be considered like a good team, if you give 3 runs to anybody in an entire series, you have to sweep that team. You can't lose a game in that series. The pitching pitched so well in that series, and you didn't get a win, or you didn't sweep them. Marco Gonzalez gave 2 runs in almost 8 innings, and you couldn't get. There's some issues there. Terens, you can't do what you're doing the way at the plate. It's just horrible. Cal Raleigh should have been batting there. Just anybody who doesn't ground or double play should have been batting there. Like, just Cal Raleigh's he's a 3 true outcomes guy. Home run, walk, strikeout. Guess what a strikeout does? It lets somebody else hit too. Like, it doesn't ground into a double play. So you cannot do that, Terens. But other than that last game, which was I think it put a really bad taste in my mouth for the other 2. The first 2 were awesome. Logan Gilbert is a beast. You heard it here first, that Logan Gilbert is going to be better than Robbie Ray. He has definitely already done that. Logan Gilbert is the real deal. It has been, and I like what I see out of Kirby so far. But I will say, Matthew, looking at it, the Mariners, depending on the metric, there's 2 advanced metrics. They fall between 7th and 9th in hitting in baseball. The problem is a lot of people look at their numbers and it's really bad, but it's bad across the board because the MLB keeps messing with the baseball. So they're actually a pretty good hitting team. It's just that no one's hitting, and their pitching is actually 26th in baseball. That's what's kind of hurting the Mariners. They're just not pitching well enough. Starters and relief and bullpen are both ranked 26th. Robbie Ray just ain't been it. Marco's been very lucky. Chris Flexen's been getting beat up. Kirby's your second best starter right now. He's pitched 3 games, which I like that Kirby has shown a lot of flashes. Kirby was so mad he gave up 1 mistake in his last game, and then other than that looked really good. Again, 10 strikeouts. There's a lot here with Logan Gilbert and Kirby that fans should be really excited for. Those 2 are looking like they're major league baseball players. And unlike Brash, Kirby is a starter. He's built like a starter. He's going to be a starter. A lot of people thought Brash was always going to be a relief pitcher. He's showing you that he's probably going to be a relief pitcher, which is fine. They're valuable. They have some value, but that's what a lot of people thought he was. It's just, man, that Houston game made me really sad. And as for Kyle Lewis, Matthew, I will tell you, the person I wanted to trade him for is Mackenzie Gore. He has a 1.7 ERA and already has 2 WAR on the season. He's looking fantastic, and we still would do that trade in a heartbeat today. So we should have traded Kyle Lewis for Mackenzie Gore.
All right. Well, let's talk about the panic meter, because if you've been on any social media platform, you can understand the panic is setting in. I don't know if you guys see the article I have posted in the show document, but it is by Jim Moore of the News Tribune. Headline is, "The Mariners season is already over, no matter what GM Jerry DePoto says." I have read it myself. I'll let you guys read it if you want, but I want to get your guys' opinion of what you think of this column and where your panic meter is at this moment. We did this before I went on a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm going to go ahead and start here. No, I do not think the Mariners are done. My worry meter is up 1 tick from where it was. It was at a 2. It's now at a 3. It's the end of May. There's plenty of games left. If you're panicked right now, I suppose I understand, because the Mariners have given you nothing for the last 20 years. So that makes sense. I can understand that. But it is not even June. It's not even the All-Star break. Yes, the Astros and the Angels are playing well. But the Mariners can get hot. They can get to 500, get above 500, and they can still have a good season. So if you're panicking, I don't blame you, but I'm not going to panic, because it's May. They played what 48 games. There's 120 to go. I mean, if you're really worried, I don't blame you, but I think your panic is misplaced. Kevin, what do you think?
First, to start with the article, when I saw it was written by Jim Moore, I didn't even read it. I'm just going to leave it at that, just to be kind. Yeah. So I don't read anything by Jim Moore. That's how much respect I have for that. I would say I'll split it up. For the season, I would put the panic probably at about a 4 or 5. Just because you have a lot of ground to make up after a terrible start. But I put it more toward a 4 just because, as I've already mentioned on previous podcasts, they had a really, really, really tough stretch in the beginning of the half. You faced Houston, you faced Toronto, you faced the Mets, you faced the Yanks, or not Yanks.
It's funny they beat two of those teams you mentioned though. Like it was just it was just. But yeah, you're right, Kevin. You're right.
But then they did Mariner things and lost to terrible teams that they should have beaten. So maybe I should be scared because now looking at the schedule, like it's starting to clear up. I mean, yes, you still have Houston and you're going to have the Angels as well, but like it should be getting better from here. So there should be more wins down the line. But if they do Mariner things, then we might have more losses down the line if we're playing bad teams. As the second half is as a whole going into the future, I would put it probably as like a 3 to a 4. Just because there's still a lot of very young pieces of, Macko, Hancock, Marte, Ford that look good. And hopefully the main thing after this season too is like you now are starting to see the pieces that you need, go get them. Like, yes, you have farm system that it's going to bring up too, but like what we were saying in the offseason when you didn't get Chris Bryant, when you didn't get Trevor Story, now you're kind of regretting that. You saw what, as Sean just mentioned, you saw what Trevor Story can do for you. Instead of playing, half-ass JP stuff, even though JP has had an okay season, he is not the quality level of what a Trevor Story can be. Now, Trevor Story started out the season super poopy, but now it's like starting to be back what Trevor Story numbers
He heard all of your tweets, Mariner fans.
Yeah.
he read all of them.
Yeah. So that's type of stuff that JP Crawford can't give you. He can't take over a game for you. Like it's just not, it doesn't have the ability to do it, unfortunately. Whereas a guy like a Chris Bryant or a Trevor Story does. You need to fill the holes next season with guys that can do that. Because next season is the season that you should be starting to contend. You should be in the playoffs. You should be a legitimate playoff contender. This season was kind of like, as we mentioned, like if we want to get to the playoffs, but like people are still growing, so we get it. So that's why I kind of put it like a 3 to 4 for my panic meter.
I would like to say JP Crawford 2.64, Trevor Story 1.2. Sean, what's your panic level at?
Poopy to start, but good now.
For this year, like what?
I'm talking at this moment. How worried are you about this team and where the season is going?
Like a 4 because I didn't pick them to win the playoffs. Go to the playoffs anyways. I don't know what people expected. Like I get after you saw the 90 wins last year and then you added Robbie Ray, you're like, and traded for Adam Frazier and all these other trades, you're like, we're a better team. And yes, on paper, they are a better team. They're undoubtedly a better team than we were last year, but they were lucky last year. It's what everyone kept saying. People all didn't want to hear the run differential crap. Well, you're hearing it now and you're getting it full in the face right now. This is what it was. You're not going to have the cluster like you had last year. It was really funny because someone did a study on this. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Fangraphs. They had cluster luck, and the Mariners were the luckiest team in baseball by a lot last year. They are one of the, I think, the third least luckiest team in terms of cluster luck. So what we've talked about is the Mariners get all this great pitching and they can't hit, or they get this great hitting and they can't pitch. That's why it looks so bad on these things. They just can't do either one even sort of okay at the same time, because if they did, they'd be a much better team. The cluster luck says they should be a lot closer to a 500 team, if not a little bit better. So their talent is there. They'll be fine talent-wise, but I didn't think they're making the playoffs anyways this year. So I'm not super panicked about them. And like Kevin said, like in the futures where I'm looking at, and their young guys are playing well. Like it's not a problem. I like Kirby looks good. Logan Gilbert looks good. Julio looks good. Kyle Lewis, it's been 2 games, but like shows he can still swing it. Doesn't look like he's running great, but if he's your DH, he's your DH. That's fine. I'm totally fine with how the young guys are looking. JP is hitting, so that's like totally fine. He has a 1.7 WAR, and Trevor Story has a 1.3. So just for
what are you looking at? ESPN? That's what I'm looking at.
No, ESPN is stupid. Fangraphs is what you look at.
And I just
Oh
like
my
to note JP Crawford last 2 weeks, 0.380 OBP with 4 runs, 0 home runs, 1 ribby, 0 stolen bases. Whereas Mr. Story last 2 weeks, 15 runs, 8 home runs, 22 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, and a 383 OBP.
Yeah, it'll be like a month and then Trevor Story will be higher. It's fine. Everyone knew that was
If we go to the month 2, it's about the same.
Yeah,
It's
and
about the same.
JP will have a higher WAR
better
because he plays
Well,
shortstop.
Sean, let me ask you this question then. You said the team was lucky last year. They got to 90 wins, and
Yeah.
the roster is better this year.
Yeah.
That's you would say that.
Yeah.
So why would you not assume that the luck gap would be made up?
Yeah, the
luck
luck
gap.
gap could be made up, but they were a 73-ish win team last year that won 90 games. They could easily win more games. I predict them to win more games, but not 90. Because they still don't have enough team on this page to be a 90 win team, what they were last year. So like people look at it like, oh, we won 90. We added these guys. We're going to be more than 90. No, you were really like a 70 something win team when the luck all neutralizes and you added to it. So yeah, you could be like an 82, 83, 84, which they could easily still get to now. I'm not ruling that out. And that's why I'm not panicking. Like they could be about there. Then that's where I think they'll be. And I think, like Kevin said, the 23 is the year where it's like, hey, boom, let's do this. Let's go for it. And for people spending money, I want to play a little game for you guys. Let's say for you two, I give you $1,000 and I tell you, you have 3 months to spend it, but whatever you don't spend at the end of 3 months, you give me back. Okay. How much do you spend in 3 months of the $1,000?
Want me to go first?
Yeah. How much do you spend?
1,000.
Matthew?
1,000.
Okay. So when people complain about Jerry Dipoto, your hate and anger needs to be directed at management. Jerry Dipoto didn't come in and be like, I got to save money. That's not Jerry Dipoto's job. Jerry Dipoto's job is to spend as much money as ownership will give him. And if ownership doesn't give him all the money, Jerry will spend as much as the ownership gives him. So when you look at like a $90 million payroll, they're like 22nd, there's the person with the checkbook is the problem you should be mad at. If Jerry had unlimited money, I'm sure he would have loved to sign Gossman and Trevor Story and whoever else was available, but he didn't have the money. It's not his money. He's not the one in charge of spending the money. It starts at Stanton. That ownership group is the one you can get mad at. You can get mad at for moves Jerry makes with the moves he can with trades and all that stuff. But the free agent signings is what I told Matthews in the offseason. I go, the player has to sign on the line. And at a certain point, the teams won't go to a certain point, especially the Mariners. And the problem with that is Jerry's like, I want Trevor Story. The ownership said, we will not pay X for Trevor Story. That's the problem. If Jerry wanted Trevor Story, he will get Trevor Story. You both said, and I agree, if you give me $200 million to spend as Jerry Dipoto, I'm going to spend $200 million because and unlike your two situations, if you don't spend the $1,000 and does bad, you get fired from both of your jobs. That's what Jerry Dipoto looks at. He goes, if I don't spend all this money and I give you back $500, I could get fired for not spending this money correctly. Like not just like give it back to you, don't get to keep the $500. Like I get fired for this. So be very clear here that like You could blame Jerry second, but the problem needs to come from ownership not spending the money, because it is up to them to spend the money. If the Mariners wanted Trevor Story, they could have had Trevor Story. But there are people in the group who weren't going to give Trevor Story the money. And his name does not start with Jerry.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I see what you're saying.
That everything I said is correct. Jerry does not have
no. You like, just because you give Trevor Story the bag doesn't mean he's going to sign with the Mariners.
That's what I said.
Jerry's job is to convince him with the money to sign with the Mariners.
But like you're giving like, hey, less money, less winning, sign here. What? Jerry's not like some like used car salesman. That's not Jerry's job. Jerry's job is to run an organization.
And isn't your job running an organization to get players to come play for you?
To do less with the same thing, Matthew? That's the whole point of why the Oakland Athletics aren't winning World Series. You're giving them less and saying like,
I'm not saying the money is the problem, but at some point you can't keep apologizing for a guy who has 7 years deep and has produced no results.
Mariner fans, no, time out. No. Stop. Mariner fans complained all offseason. I was in a group with Kevin who was like, Jerry Dipoto, terrible. And I'm like, okay, why? And he goes, there's 22nd league in spending. I go, that's not Jerry who didn't spend the money. That's not Jerry's money. Jerry didn't say like, let me only spend 98 million. He's never saying that. Does he? Like, if it's up to him and his job is on the line, he's going to be like, I want to be a bottom third team in spending. That no rational person, I just asked you the question, would say that.
But is his job on the line?
Probably in next year.
Is it? Because he's had 7 years. He's had a full rebuild at this point. When is his job on the line? I don't think that's the case. His full rebuild
isn't here yet. His players are playing that he rebuilt. Yes, the players you asked him to rebuild are playing and playing well. We just talked about that.
I mean, are they playing well?
Kyle Lewis, Julio Rodriguez, Logan Gilbert. Those are his.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be mad at ownership, but you are perfectly within your right to be mad at Jerry. 100%.
But it's misguided and lazy is what it is. Yes.
You are the general manager.
Yes.
You have control. You don't have control of the pocketbook. No, you don't have control of that. But you have control over everything else.
No, you have almost the final say. Ownership has the final say of everything. You can't make a single move without ownership signing a piece of paper. Understand that.
Well, then your only option is to boycott the team.
So what I'm telling you is when they
that's your only option.
When they fire Jerry Dipoto, it will get worse, is what I'm telling you.
He's a glorified consultant.
How can it get worse?
Jack Zarenzig, Bill Bavasi.
Okay.
Those are worse run GMs. It's getting slowly better. And we're like, you know what? It's the problem here. I go like, Bill Bavasi was horrible. It's the same ownership group. There's a common denominator that's still here that's terrible.
But you're not getting rid of them. So you've got to look other options. You can't just keep going. It's ownership. It's ownership.
But it will never. It is, and it will never change until you.
So then nothing will ever change. Even with Jerry, even with another GM, nothing will change.
Unless you get crazy lucky, which they did last year.
So no expectations ever with this ownership group. I think that's the way to go here. It's going to be
incredibly hard. They have to, like Kevin said, until you get free agency, the ownership has to open the checkbook. You have to at some point open the checkbook.
But they won't.
You needed a Trevor Story.
But they won't.
If they don't, then all of Jerry's minor leaguers need to hit. That is unrealistic expectations for Jerry. They all have to hit, or else it won't work.
But they won't spend money. We've seen that.
I'm telling you, there is your option.
So
spend money, you have to spend.
So
some
basically,
money,
you are saying Mariners are forever basement until a new ownership comes in,
or until you get next A-Rod and Griffey at the same time.
I mean, the hype around Kelnick and Julio was kind of at that level.
You better hope they both hit, or else.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or you better hope they both hit, or you're not going to win anything. You could make the playoffs maybe, but you're not going to win anything. You might sneak in those 6 wild card at one point with the two of them, but you have to spend money.
I think the takeaway from this conversation is never put faith in Mariners. I think that's the takeaway.
Money, but you have to spend money. Like at some point, sign somebody. But
they haven't. So why would you assume they're going to do anything different at this point?
And that's going to be the incredible.
So until new ownership comes, Mariners fans should expect nothing.
Yeah, it was unfortunately a podcast. I listened to a Mariners centric podcast and they said the same thing. They're like, it's what is going to change reasonably until that happens. You fire somebody. What is the next guy going to do, Matthew? What can you, he has to hit all of the, like 10 of his prospects.
I'm not saying that Jerry has done a bad job, but I'm saying that we know that ownership is a problem. And now the person who is tasked of putting a winning team together is not. Now, is that completely Jerry's fault? Absolutely not. He can't spend money and all this sort of thing.
He did put a winning
but at the same time, he has not put together results.
He put a winning team.
Cannot discount him for that.
He put a winning team on the field.
Yeah. When is he not?
So last year was the season that you've all been waiting for? Is that?
No, but I don't want a wild card and I want to be a legit World Series contender.
Well, we're never going to be that. You just said that.
Yeah, unless you spend money.
We're never going to be that.
Right. Exactly right.
Where
you are 100%
literally
right.
There was like almost half the teams in the AL were playoff contenders, which rarely ever happens. We just got the short end of the stick too. Now we also only got to that 90-win team because one, as Sean mentioned, we got lucky because we had a very good bullpen and we had like 30 wins that were 1-run wins. And that's why you're not seeing it this year too, because the bullpen has gone to where you're not winning those 1-run wins type when you're in those scenarios where you have Paul Sewell that goes out there and then gives up after Marco does, 7-8 strong type deal. But what Sean's trying to say is that unfortunately, even though people are they're not looking into the information that is out there. They're just doing the normal thing of just assuming what it is, just based off general facts instead of looking into the picture. And they're blaming Jerry for it when they should be blaming management and wanting the heads of management on a stick versus Jerry's.
Yes. Matthew, I am all for if there's no results even next year, you have to try to move on because you have to shake something up. But right now you have to be mad at ownership for not watching Trevor Story go off against you for 4 games. That makes me mad that we didn't spend the money to get a Trevor Story, because right now we would be objectively better with Trevor Story. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't have to shine for it. Suarez has been good even. And Adam Frazier's been good, but we could have still spent money just simply to upgrade the positions. Like free agents are free agents if you want to spend the money to just buy them. And you're going to have to spend a little bit of money to get them more in Seattle. But the Mariners ownership's just like, nah, I don't want to. And there is a certain point where you're like, hey, it is not smart to spend too much on a certain player, but we're not there yet. Like they're like, here's our number. And they're like, okay, no, well, Boston wants to go here. And they're like, nope, we're done. And I'm like, well, can you not just have a conversation?
Well, then let me ask you this. Why is Jerry here? If he can't do anything, why is he here?
He's building the minors. That was his job, to build the ground up.
But he can't spend money. Why is he here?
To do everything else other than spend money. He's got to make the trades. And he's been good at making the trades and building the farm system. That's what he's been doing. I told you 3 years ago, they're the worst in baseball because ownership was like, we got to win now and build later. That was the stupidest thing. They wasted 3 years. It was so stupid. They should have tore it down, traded Prime Felix, got a haul, traded Cano, just been so much better off than you would have been now. That probably is the Sushi was probably done by now, but we didn't because the ownership was it was so stupid. So they were the worst minor leagues 3 years ago. They are now the best and calling up all these guys. Like, aren't the Julio's fun? Aren't the Logan Gilbert's fun? Aren't the Kirby's fun? Matt Brash was fun for a while. Like, aren't these guys fun? Versus like just old Nelson Cruz and Robinson Cano getting popped for steroids every other year. Like, and then watching Felix just deteriorate. Like, we didn't get anything for Felix because what were we doing? Like, what was the plan there? And then their ownership's like, okay, rebuild. And he's like, fucking goddamn. Like, it's just like, it seems like ownership just at the top, obviously, because the Nintendo owner was like, I've never seen a baseball game just a couple years ago. They don't care about the product on the field. They just want to make the money, and they're just okay with like I don't want to get in the whole like labor negotiations issues with baseball owners and all that stuff, but that's clearly the biggest issue with them. They just want to make the money, not actually win games. And you need to start incentivizing winning, actually, not incentivizing just everybody gets, oh, you get all this money. But they finally have rebuild and started to rebuild, and there are fruits of the labor showing up there. But what I'm saying, Matthew, is what I want from a team That's kind of what I want from the Seahawks. I don't want you to like get to the playoffs and like get slaughtered and embarrassed. That's not. I want a legit chance to go and make a run at a World Series or a Super Bowl every year. You don't have to, but just have a legit chance. Like, I don't want to be like the Twins when you're like, okay, you made the playoffs, but you're not gonna do anything. Who cares? Like, it's like just be a team that like, or like the White Sox or like the Brewers. Like, you got some pitchers, you can get on a run here, and I could see a way that you could win the World or go to the World Series, on a run. Just I want to be that versus like sell it out to like, here's a 1-game playoff. Okay, you lose, but the drought's over. Congratulations. Like, I don't want that. I want, and in order to do what I want, you have to spend money. You can make the playoffs, but you're not going to have any sustained winning unless you spend money. Just some. I don't need to spend a lot. Just some. Don't be like like the 25th spending team in baseball. Does that make sense? Like, you have to spend some.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't completely agree with you, but it makes sense. But
that's what I want. That's what you should be wanting. I don't give a shit about the playoff drought. I want a chance to win something that actually matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we go to the playoffs, end the drought, and then don't make the playoffs for another 10 years, who cares? Who gave a shit if we played 1 game and lost? That irrelevant. It didn't matter at that point just because the little thing left. Like, I want a chance to actually win something because the Mariners are the only team to never beat in the World Series. That's the record I want to be knocked off.
Be the Cleveland Browns now.
Yes.
Don't be.
Don't
that's
sign
a
a
perfect
Deshaun
situation.
Watson, though.
You had Baker Mayfield, and you made a playoff and you lost, and then you, instead of just being like, okay, we ended the drought, they went and got a elite quarterback and just went all in. They're just like, we're going now. This is our time. We have the pieces. We're going for a Super Bowl. That's what we're doing. That's what they need to do.
Or like,
I hope we're live to see it.
The Rams. The Rams did.
Or the Rams, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, Jared Goff's not going to get done. Let's go in and like try to make a legit run at these things. And they've been to a couple Super Bowls, it turns out. And they've had some pretty good teams, turns out, every year. But that's what I want. I don't want to, because the Mariners aren't a lucky team. Seahawks aren't lucky teams. We can't rely on.
You just said they were lucky. No, I'm done.
We were
Go
lucky.
ahead. Keep going. Sorry, keep going. Never mind.
Context and a lucky of the year.
Nope.
But like, you know what I mean? Like the Cincinnati, we're not going to get a Cincinnati Bengals luck run. That makes no sense. That isn't justified by any numbers. We're not going to get that. We got that. Matthew, we were lucky.
We're not going to get that because we're never there to get a chance to do
exactly. We were so lucky last year. We were so lucky last year, and a team that was the luckiest team won the World Series. The Atlanta Braves lost their best player and their best pitcher, and they're like, we're going to just fall into the playoffs. Eddie Rosario is terrible right now. He's so bad. He has a negative WRC plus. Jared Kelenic is 60. He has a negative, and he was the playoff MVP for the Braves. He's garbage. That's like, they threw poo at a wall and they're like, something stuck. And then like they won a World Series. We were luckier than them and we couldn't make the playoffs. So we were lucky and still unlucky at the same freaking time. We got way more lucky than the Braves did. And we still couldn't even make the freaking playoffs. Like, it's like the baseball gods give you a little cracker, be like, oh, but you can't have the whole cracker. I know the Braves got the rest of the pack of the crackers, but you got like a little bit. Like, they just did enough just to tease you, and that was all. That was it. I didn't think they were gonna make the playoffs this year. This wasn't gonna be their year. But like, I want a sustained run. I don't care about like what they do this year. I want a sustained run, and you have to sign a Trevor Story. You have to sign. They did. At least they got a Robbie Ray. Turns out it was maybe a bad signing. This is what happens sometimes. But I mean, you gotta at least spend some money. And I don't even bemoan the Robbie Ray signing because I think he'll play better. But like, you needed a bat, you needed a Chris Bryant, you needed a Trevor Story, and they didn't get any of them. And it's just like, you see it. And I'm like, the next year. So like, Julio has to keep hitting. Kelenic has to come up and play better. You have to have Marte do good because Ty France is going to be 34. Mitch Haniger is going to be gone. Cal Raleigh ain't it. And you're like, I'm running out of players. Like, I'm just running out of, like, you have 4 hitters now because every one of your minor leaguers has to hit because you're not going to spend any money to get any major league players. And I'm like, that is not a sustained winning mentality. You can't keep winning that way.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of the Mariners' panic level of how they've been doing in recent weeks. Actually, before we move off to the Mariners topic, we got off track a little bit. We all went to see the Everett Aqua Sox take on the Tri-State Dust Devils, and we were all there to see Adam Macko of
You
the
guys were
Everett
there to see
Aqua
it. I
Sox.
didn't see it.
You saw some of it. You saw some of it.
Yeah.
Kevin was probably the most engaged. Nolan kept handing me kettle corn, so I kept getting distracted. But Kevin, what were your impressions of Adam Macko that we all went to the game of the Tri-City Dust Devils versus the Everett Aqua Sox? Now the Dust Devils won 4-0. Let's not forget that. But what did you think of his performance?
I thought it was okay. Unfortunately, he didn't really get much run support. The only person that was actually hitting was Marte, who actually got on base with a walk, and then he had a single later on, and then a double, I think. But he was pretty much the only thing that was going hitting wise for the Aqua Sox. I thought they pulled him a little too early because I think they had scored 2 runs, and then he grounded into a double play, but then there was a guy on third, and then they pulled him after 4 2/3. And then they brought in a reliever, if I remember correctly, and he gave up 2 more runs, and one of them was Macko's. So which was the guy on third. So I was like, why don't you just let him close out I'm like, he got you the double play, now just let him try to get you out of it, and then you can pull him after that. But I don't know. All in all, I thought he had an okay outing. It probably wasn't one of his better outings. His outing after that was actually better.
Yeah, it was really
But it's going to happen from time to time. I thought Marte looked excellent, good. His second at bat was kind of bad. He literally swung 3 times in a row after taking one, and just was trying to hit because I think he was just like, I'm the only one doing anything. So he's like, desperation, let's go. So all in all, it was a fun game. But yeah, I still think he's going to be a beast. What he'll be coming up, who knows? But he's still got a lot. There's still a lot of time before we probably see him. So.
And I want to go ahead and let everyone know about the Columbia River Rooster Tails. The Dust Devils unveiled this alternate. It's a rooster piloting a hydroplane. Saw this and immediately had to reply to Joe. And it sounds like a lot of people are on the same idea as myself. This is cool. I like this. I've got to say I like this more than Dust Devil personally. Would be a big fan if they just changed to this. I'm gonna probably buy a hat. I'm sure JT already has one. So JT, please just wear your hat on next time you're on this show. But what do you guys think of the Columbia River Rooster Tails? Sean, what do you think?
I like it. I don't know. I do like the Dust Devils though.
It fits the area a little bit more.
They're both fine. I do like the different colors. I just like that. See, I think people get too excited. It's a good logo, but I like the alternatives that you could also wear, because if you just switch to it, then your alternatives, the Dust Devils. I don't know. It's a good logo though. But we're not the only ones with boat races. It's the biggest thing here, but
Kevin, what do you think?
I think even though they kind of already have a cool alternate logo, which is the Viñeros.
Yeah.
Which I like that hat too. I think the Dust Devil logo is actually cool, and it kind of fits the area just because we're a dry plain of shit. Is the best way to describe the Tri-Cities. So, and you're probably going to see Dust Devils around here, versus, like Sean said, the hydroplanes are not exclusively to this area. I mean, yeah, boat races do happen around here where a bunch of people just come out, get drunk, get stupid. And the hat looks super cool, and it's more like, because we're a sub-affiliate of the LA Angels. So it matches the Angels color with the red. But I mean, it doesn't have to, of course, just like the Aqua Sox didn't have to match the Mariners, stuff like that. But I think it'd be a cool alternative night, like type deal. But other than that, I'd rather just keep the Dust Devils.
Fair enough. All right, well, let us know what you think of the Columbia River Rooster Tails. Go ahead and tweet at us. I'm at _Matt. Sean is at Sean Spaghetti. Kev's at Kev's Blitz. First and believes being a 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like our videos. Tell us what you think of the topics in the comments below. We are reaching 55 minutes, so we'll try and keep this fairly brief as we can keep it anyways. The Seahawks released the schedule just shortly after our last podcast. So I'm going to run down the games here. Week 1, hosting the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football. Nothing significant about that. At San Francisco the next week in week 2, hosting Atlanta, at Detroit, at New Orleans, versus Arizona, at Los Angeles Chargers, versus the New York Giants, at Arizona, versus Tampa Bay in Germany, versus Las Vegas, at the LA Rams, versus Carolina, versus San Francisco, at Kansas City, versus the New York Jets, and versus the Los Angeles Rams to wrap up the season. So I'm going to ask you guys, let's take out the Denver game because I think that's probably the most significant game on the schedule. Give me a game that you want to go to. I guess take out Germany too, because that doesn't count either. Don't go to Germany. I mean, I do want to go to Germany, but that's an easy answer. So out of the rest of these games, besides the Denver and Tampa Bay game, which one are you most excited to see? So I think this question is mainly because of the opponent, because a lot of people are down on Seahawks. Totally cool. And I think I would probably want to attend the Las Vegas Raiders game. I think that team's going to be really interesting to watch this year with all the pieces they've added. So that would be cool. Or to go to LA and see the Chargers play. I think those 2 games would be the ones I would most want to see on the schedule. Kevin, what do you think?
None, because we're gonna. It doesn't matter. Like, this season is a little bit different than the rest, of course, because we're going to suck, like a lot. And it doesn't really. I mean, with no elite quarterback back there and running the ball 80% of the time, it's just not exciting. Like, we might get a crazy big play every now and then, or Penny or whoever might run like a 50-yard play, a 50-yard crazy run, maybe once or twice. But
Did you see he's hurt already?
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. Actually, you know what? To be honest, I'm kind of excited to see the Jets game. God damn it! And the reason why is because I want to see how bad, like how close it is. So then, like, all you dumb fucking 12s out there can see what Pete Carroll has done to this organization, because the Jets are a dumpster fire, and we're going to be like neck and neck with them. It's going to be kind of like the Browns game that we had with Charlie Whitehurst at the quarterback.
Oh, 6-3 game?
It probably will. It's going to be a poop fest. And yeah, because I'm seeing so many, and that's why I'm calling you 12s, because you have an IQ of 12. Because you just dream of promise. You're like, oh my God, we can still be good. Oh, we can no, we're going to suck, boys and girls. We're going to suck. I've already even, like, my older brother is kind of one of them, who he's like, oh, there's still hope and stuff, because he's still kind of new and doesn't know football like most of these 12s. I told them, I was like, if we get more than 7 wins, I'm going to take you out to Red Robin. You can have whatever the fuck you want, and I'll pay for it. You can literally have it all night. Like, just keep ordering shit and I'll fucking pay for it. That's how confident I am that we're not going to get more than 7 wins in this season. Unless, like, everybody in the division dies. Like, if there's like a nuclear holocaust and we're the last teams and we just get it by forfeit, there's really no chance of it happening. Maybe unless some last weird, crazy second we get Baker Mayfield. And then even then, like, because he's going to be neutered. Like, they're not gonna let Baker Mayfield do a whole lot, which maybe might be a good thing, because that was kind of what the Browns should have done a little bit more, because you had 2 beast running backs and you're just like, let's let Baker cook. And I'm like, that's probably not the best idea. You probably should have done the swap. But anywho, yeah, actually the Jets game, to be like, because I want to see the look on 12's faces when they realize how stupid they are for getting pissed off. And it's kind of like, I wanted to compare this when Matt was going off on the Jerry DiPoto thing. It's like being mad at Russell for leaving. It's like, it's not Russell's fault that he wanted to leave. He gave you the opportunities to change. He gave you the layout of what needed to happen to win because he knew what needed to happen to win. But you had dumb butt Pete Carroll who thinks that 1980s football wins. And then you have Jody Allen, whose ownership, who hasn't seen a football game, probably like the Nintendo owner, who's just like, give it all to Pete because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That should be the opposite now. That's what Nintendo should do with Jerry. Like, give Jerry the keys to the car to where Jerry can go get whatever he needs, versus letting an old fucking 80-year-old man who doesn't know anything anymore doesn't know about new age stuff have the keys to the car and trade away your elite Hall of Fame quarterback. So yeah, because it's going to be such a good day on Twitter. It's going to be a great day to watch all these ignorant fucks have a come to Jesus moment when they realize, oh shit, we're stupid. We probably should have got rid of Pete. But then there'll be some that will just like try to hold on leash back. No, it's okay. Keep the 80-year-old man with the old faggy butt. Just no. That's why I want the Jets. There you go. Pass it off.
That was probably the most cussing in segment on this podcast ever.
I'm sorry.
Sean, what do you think?
So if I'm picking a game I want to go see, and I can't pick the Tampa Bay game, I want to go away from Seattle because I've been there before. So, but like Kevin, I want to see a win that eliminates every game except for two. You're not beating Kansas City. You're not beating the Rams. You're not beating Arizona. You're not beating the Chargers. You're not beating the 49ers.
You're beating the 49ers.
In San Francisco?
We always beat the Niners. I don't know why.
We always with Russell Wilson, Kevin. Like, you saved our butt so many times. Like,
but even last season, it wasn't much as that one. I will admit that one wasn't as much Russell as more of it was just a stupid like run.
Russell still does things for us that like he makes the play when we have to, but like it's gonna get so bad. Detroit or the Saints? I don't really want to go to Detroit. so as to like
it's probably New Orleans. Absolutely.
No, it's going to be New Orleans. I want to go to New Orleans. We have a better chance of beating Detroit, but I want to go to New Orleans. It'll be fun to at least go there with maybe not expectations of winning, but I'll go see New Orleans.
All right. Well, let us know what Seahawks game you want to see on the schedule. Go ahead and tweet us. I am at Matt. Sean is Sean_Beatty. Kev's at Kev Believe First Team Believes Venus 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Like our videos, tell everyone about them. Maybe retweet myself and Kevin and Sean all the time. Whatever you guys want to do out there. But that is all the time we have on Washington.
Hold on.
Sorry, go ahead.
You say here at the bottom, the Seahawks travel the most miles of any team. That is actually incorrect. The Buccaneers travel more miles than the Seahawks do in 2022. By 1,000.
Okay, second most, but that's a lot of time on a plane.
It is. No, it is. But how much? I honestly don't know off the top of my head. How much of the 26,000 is to the? How much is the Germany flight there and back? How many miles?
I mean, the Germany flight is a good amount, but they go to the East Coast time zone.
I know that, but it was like to Germany miles.
I was about to say we played better on the road, but that was with Russell.
I mean, that Matthew, that's 10,000 of the 26. So I'm saying like.
So I guess if you take out Germany, that's a lot less. But yeah,
because like someone's like.
But I think they generally travel the most because they're just in the corner. I mean, that's just kind of how it works usually.
They do, and that's why the Bucks are the most because they also are going to Germany.
But then you've got the Steelers who never leave the Eastern time zone, so that's also a little weird how. Yeah.
But like you can tell, I think it's like top 10 for sure. All teams going to, England game or a Germany game, clearly like 10,000 miles is cutting into, that Seattle is 10,000. I mean, Tampa Bay is probably a lot is less than 10,000, but there and back, but still, you know what I mean? Like it's a overseas trip. These top, 8 teams are clearly going somewhere.
True.
But yeah,
it's interesting that they chose that game too. I would feel like they would want Tampa Bay to be in their market, but
it's a Seattle home game.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is.
It's not a Tampa Bay home game.
Ooh, boy, that's brutal.
Yeah, when you go overseas and you get the home game, that says a lot about what the NFL thinks about you.
Ouch.
We're the Jags now. Damn it.
Cool. All right. So, yeah, I am a Vader Square Matt. Sean is Sean Square Bay. Kev's at Kev's Believe the First Thing Believes in a 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like our videos. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Next week, I'm sure we'll be right back into the Mariners conversation. We'll check in with the rain and the storm, and then we'll see if there are any Seahawks news. But we'll also probably try and bring in the Kraken as well as the draft approaches. So with that, we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.